Hello, everyone. Welcome to There Be Toys. Now, I wanted to talk about the relationship between DC and Spin Master Toys. I recently did a video about their Batman 1989 series that is coming soon, and I had forgotten about a whole bunch of rumors that had revealed themselves way back in the beginning of January, and I had come across this again, and I didn't remember anything. I had found these actually through the website Just BSing, and it's from Toy Wanderer, and they put together a sort of rumor list of what was coming from Spin Master way back in the beginning of the year. Now, obviously, things have changed since then because in February it was revealed that the DC license was going to Mattel. Mattel used to have it, but then it was like sometime in 2018, 2020, something like that. It was split off and other people were able to have the license. So this means that Spin Master and McFarlane should be losing the license. I don't know. There seems to be some confusion on the McFarlane side, like saying maybe they'll do other figures as well. They'll work out another deal. I'm not sure. It could be one-off stuff, that kind of thing, which does suck because I'm just getting into these movie lines that he's doing. Batman Returns, I just saw in Target. I was completely shocked because my Target usually has nothing, and I really wanted Max Schreck, and they were the only ones, obviously, who were going to have it. I wasn't able to get it the first time around, and I was able to actually get the others through Amazon. They sold out in, I think it was like 7 minutes. It was really ridiculous, but I was shocked. Here they were, and I grabbed them. Catwoman is actually in my hand. I wasn't letting it go, but here are the other three. So I don't know what's happening now with Spin Master. Are they going to be able to get everything on this rumor list? So let's take a look further into that. So based on the list that Toy Wanderer made, we see there is 1978 Superman, 1987 Superman, Supergirl from 1984, 1989 Batman, and 1992 Batman Returns. Based on this list, some did come out, some had extra figures that were not on the list, and some have yet to be released if they're going to make it. So let's take a look at what actually did get released. For the 1978 Superman, we have Superman, Lex Luthor, Zod. All three of those were on the rumor list, but what wasn't on there was Lois Lane, Jor-El in white, and Jor-El in black. So those are what were released. And this wasn't the first DC retro that they did. They did do Batman Forever. It was sort of a re-release of the Kenner figures from back in the day in the 90s. And a lot of people were thinking that these figures would look similar to that, similar to a Super Friends look or a Kenner look from the 90s. But these were more Star Wars figures, 78, which I guess that kind of works out if they were kind of going with that. I don't know. I would have liked it either way. I think maybe the more action-oriented looking Super Friends or Kenner style would have been a little bit better. So it was interesting to see these released with a sort of Star Wars feel to them. Now, the second wave, I guess you can say, it's not a second wave necessarily because it's a separate movie, but they're all on the same scale. So we'll call it a second wave, is the Batman 1989 figures. Now, Batman and Joker were on that original rumor list, but not on there was Vicky Vale and Bob the Goon. And I think the bigger surprise to everybody is Vicky Vale. Now, I did my last video about these figures, and you let your feelings be known. There were people who did not like how these looked, and they do look a little bit different to me than the Superman figures. I saw them in person. I almost bought them. And I don't know, they look maybe not as sharp. Obviously the likenesses are not there, we know that. But there is something a little bit different about these. People were saying maybe it's a different sculptor and such. I didn't know much about Spin Master. I had never really bought anything from them. I just didn't know them as a company. So I did go to their website, and in all fairness, yes, it does look like they are catering to much younger children, younger audience. These really aren't collectible grade kind of figures. Now, I'm not using that as an excuse because even when we were little kids, we had Star Wars figures, and maybe the likenesses weren't there, but the details were there, and they were a bit more elevated So I'm not sure why these suffered. If these are prototype images, they don't look to be like 3D models. So maybe they will look a little bit different in person. So again, we had the four figures that were on the list, and they were made it to the website, so they are there. But that is down two figures from Superman. That doesn't mean that there had to be six figures in the line, but it would have been great to have seen, say, like Alicia and Alfred. That would have been really, really cool. Not saying that would have ever happened, but if they're getting around using likenesses, well, why not, right? Like, why not go for it? And just with these movies alone, I mean, they would be made for an older audience, I would think. I mean, certainly you can make them for kids, but who are these going to appeal to more? It's certainly going to be an older crowd. I actually did like a rough, crude, I mean, very crude Photoshop just to fix these up a little bit. And I don't do that and say that to be rude to the sculptor or the company or anything. I'm sure it takes a lot to really make these happen to begin with. But I thought, let me just tweak it a little bit. And like I made the suit fully black, which I like that better than the sort of grayish look. I got rid of the eyeballs that they had, the blue eyes. And I think with a small 3¼ inch figure or 4 inch figure, that just looks better because you barely see them, and the white in the eyes for Batman stands out. His head was a little too small. Now, there's the version of this figure from the Batmobile that has the cloth cape, and I think that's the original sculpt, and they put this rubber cape over his shoulders, which threw the proportions off. So that's why I made the head a little bit bigger, and I think it just improves it just a little bit more. When I was looking at Vicky Vale, her face close up, I noticed that, yeah, the sculpting is a little soft for all of these figures, but it does look different on the carded pictures they have. So again, I don't know what we're dealing with. I mean, these just may really be prototype images, and it's going to look different when we get them in person. But I noticed her face, the one they're using for the glam shot, which should be that should be the best example of your work, right? Her left eye was like printed way too high. So I fixed that. I thought her mouth was a little too small, so I made that a little bit wider, and a lot of people were noticing that there wouldn't be articulation in the legs, so I added that articulation. A lot of companies do that if they have a skirt or a dress or something. They still put the articulation there, so I added that in. But by far the biggest offender to people was Bob the Goon. Poor Bob. He really looked nothing like himself. He looked like Prince Adam from Filmation's He-Man. So I noticed the hat seemed a bit too big, so I made that smaller. I corrected the colors a bit and made the purple a little bit darker. They did darken this purple to the Joker figure, but I thought I'd darken it even more. I made the hat black and the inside black, which I think, again, looks way better than the gray. And I fixed the hair, the eyes. You can add a little bit of stubble. Again, not perfect, really, really crudely done, but just with a little tweaking, I think it could have looked really, really cool. So not sure why they're just so soft on the details and such, but hopefully in hand they'll look a little bit better. Now, the only other one in that group is Joker that I didn't do. I think he looked okay. His lips were maybe a little bit too big, but I left him alone. So that's who came out, and some of those were on the rumor list. Here's who was on the rumor list who's not come out yet. There is a Batman Returns 3-pack that was listed. Now, this is interesting because we haven't seen any multi-packs, and I'm not sure why they would do a 3-pack for these rather than single carded. So that's pretty interesting. So I would take that to mean it was just these three planned, but it doesn't mean that there aren't others coming out. There's also 1984 Supergirl that was listed, and 1987 Superman's Nuclear Man was in that list as well. So these were on the list, but as of now, we don't know if they're going to come out because of this deal, of Mattel taking over DC, or if these are still scheduled. Now, DC does not go to Mattel until mid-2026, so there is still time for these to come out. Unfortunately, though, that doesn't give much time for any kind of wish list, and I think what's frustrating to me is to get started in a line and they don't go very deep with it, or it's just a few figures, or something changes hands, so it's really, really frustrating. That's why I like the McFarlane line of the Burton Schumacher movies. You know, they're all in one scale. He hit all the characters. Like, that was really, really cool. Don't know if he's going to get to do a Joker, though, because apparently Jack Nicholson's likeness is impossible to get, and all the other likenesses are spot on. So, not sure what's going to happen there, unfortunately. But with this case, you know, with the retro, they don't use likenesses anyway. So it just would have been nice to have seen this fleshed out, and it doesn't look like that's going to be the case because time is unfortunately ticking. So some I would have liked to have seen, you know, certainly an Alfred, you know, Shrek would have been good, maybe some of the circus gang. It just would have been cool at the price. They're a little bit cheaper, $7, $8, to have been able to build this out a little more. So I don't know if the Batman 3-pack stays or if they would do more. Supergirl, like, are they going to just do Supergirl by herself? Are they going to possibly do the villain, Selena, with that? How are they going to work these in if they're going to do them now at all? Zod was already released in the first wave, and people thought that was a little strange, even though there's an appearance. But how could you not do Ursa and Non? Like, that would be that would be really frustrating if they couldn't release those two. They're not on the rumor list at all. Possibly also Superman's mother. It would have made sense to go with Jor-El, so that could have been a possibility. But you definitely have to have Ursa and Non now that there is Zod. It is strange that 1987's Superman, the Nuclear Man figure, was on that list. I don't know how then they would be doing these waves. Were they going to just combine them? Were they doing more than one? They probably, I'm thinking, would have just combined waves and put characters in it. On my list, though, for sure, I would have loved to have seen Superman 3. I know that's another movie, you know, people don't really like very much of Superman. But, I mean, come on, like, Robot Vera, how has that not happened yet? Like, people have nightmares about that scene still. But it would have been great to have seen those characters. So, don't know what's going to happen now. We have until mid-2026. So, I take it that this is going to be it. It's going to be wrapping up, and we're going to be seeing the end of this. And then Mattel takes over. So maybe Mattel will start doing their own. I'm really interested to see what they're going to do. Some people are concerned because they don't feel it's going to reach the level that McFarlane has, the sculpting and the selection. So I guess it's going to be a wait and see. But here's that rumor list. I've forgotten all about it. And hopefully we'll get to see a few more of these before Spin Master's time ends with DC.